Welcome to Data and AI Conversations with Surya. That's me. Here we dive into real stories, insights, and career journeys. So let's get started. Hi, John.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good, and welcome to the show. Let me first introduce you. So you have a wide range of experience. I was looking through your profile, and you've been like a solution architect, a data engineer, a database expert. You're currently working for Redgate as a technology partner and alliance manager.
Yep.
And you're also a conference speaker. You do mentoring as well.
Yep.
And most important, well, to me and those who live in Aberdeen, is that you help me, Johan, and Andy organize the Aberdeen Data Platform and Cloud User Group.
Yep. So I think that pretty much sums up everything. I mean, I've been doing the data technology stuff for it's got to be nearly 20 years now. And as you say, been through the roles. So yeah, been around a bit, seen a lot of things, learned a lot of lessons in my time. So yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky to now understand what I don't know. I think is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, that is a good way of looking at it, isn't it? So
Yeah.
Again, like you said, because it's been 20 years and you've been doing so many roles, is there anything that you can tell in terms of advice for people who are just looking for their new roles, or maybe not happy with their current role and not sure what to do next?
So, I mean, a lot of the time you'll hear people say, well, if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's one of those things, no matter what it is, it's always going to be work and you're going to have to get out of bed to go to it. So the way I tend to look at things is look for jobs that are interesting. Try to keep you engaged. And if you enjoy doing them, great, but make sure that any role that you take, make sure that when you get in there, you set boundaries early. That's the key thing. So it's easier to go from a sort of more restricted state to a more permissive state with an organization. Don't go in and give them lots of free time and hours, because then you set a bar and it's difficult to walk back from that, and it gets perceptions. So with regards to specific roles, I haven't really got anything to say other than find something that you don't mind doing 5 days a week, that you're not dreading when you get out of bed. I mean, I tend to work on so long as I'm having more good days than bad days, it's a job. The ups and downs will come with it. It's one of those things that you'll get there. You're going to have some good days. Predominantly, hopefully that's what's going to happen. You're going to have the odd bad day here or there. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to drop the ball, but it's not the end of the world. So really it is, just a case of find something that you don't mind doing, that keeps you engaged, that you can do quite happily 5 days a week, but make sure you got those boundaries set when you get into any new role. I mean, it's got to the point where I burnt out a couple of times through my career. It's not a fun state to be in. So very much these days, it's a case of, well, I start work in the morning, I close my laptop in the evening, I try to avoid working weekends. I set the boundaries to say, if you want me to work extra, I want something back, whether it's additional time back, whether it's additional sort of compensation. That's the way I tend to approach it. Boundaries are very important, because gone are the days of working for an organization for 50 years and getting a carriage clocks at the end of it and stuff like that. Yeah, and the likes of Microsoft and Google and Amazon, you've got plenty of different opportunities to move laterally, sort of diagonally, move up, and stay with an organization. But you're essentially moving through different parts of an organization that is so large, they may as well be different companies. But fundamentally, we're a number to them. And we'll be out the door when we're sort of surplus to requirements. So it's a two-way street. Make sure you hit your contract, negotiate terms, that type of thing as well. Don't be afraid to when you say set the boundaries, also set the contract terms that you want to look at. If you're not happy with something, raise it early. Be confident in your abilities. If they want you, they'll communicate, and there will be a dialogue. So I think the biggest also piece of advice there is don't undersell yourself. Don't don't undervalue yourself. And I say that to people that I mentor, people that I'm sort of coming into the industry now, is everything you do has value. Make sure you understand what that value is, and make sure that you achieve that value and you get what you're due. So, bit of a rambling answer there, but
no. You made quite a lot of good points. And to be honest, the one you said about the value, I kind of know from personal experience, because I have a tendency to not really, and it's something that I'm working to improve on in a way, like, that I suppose the confidence in saying that I have done all this, that makes me valuable, rather than
exactly.
I have done all this, but I need to do this also to make it valuable for you. It's like a
Exactly.
slight reframing there that's needed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky to have spent some time working in sales roles in my career in technical sales, and it comes down to sort of value based selling, and it's a case of understanding what the value is and what you're offering, and then understanding what the market will bear is also something. So if you're a contractor, consultant, things like that, make sure your day rate's appropriate. Make sure you're setting the boundaries around things like T&E, over and above day rate, what have you. That's also very important. But when it comes to just general contracts, I mean, the thing I hate is when you see a job advert, market rates. I'm like, well, what does that mean? What's the number? I was very lucky to work for one organization where this pay structure was very rigid. It was public, so everybody knew what salary people were on. If you're at a particular level, that was the salary it was paid. And we also knew what the owners were on and everything like that. It was very open and very transparent. And that, I think, has got a huge amount of value. And any company that you come along like that to, it's really, really good.
Yeah, that's good to know. And also, like, about setting the boundaries, it kind of reminded me of, like, because I used to teach before, well, for 10 years before I moved into data, I remember thinking that when I first started teaching, it was so important to set the boundaries earlier in class in terms of the behavior and what is expected as well. Because if you go in with a stricter boundary, then you can loosen up over time. But if you go in with a more chilled attitude, it's so difficult to, bring the class back together, because they've decided, oh, well, this is the normal now.
Exactly. And I sort of think it's akin to a long-standing IT environment with firewalls in it. Over the years, things will be more permissive and everything like that, and then you get to a point where, well, we need to tidy everything up. But trying to lock things down after the case is very difficult. So that's something I've experienced in a job role, and that's also very sort of akin to when you go in and you give a lot for free, or you do a lot of extra, and you do over and above. There's nothing wrong with that, but make sure that it doesn't become what's the expected standard, so that when you go back to actually doing your job, it's not perceived as you shirking responsibility or doing less or anything like that. It's well, I'm doing what I'm paid to do. So that's all cool.
Yeah, that's true. So how did you get started in the career? Like, did you do computing, or did you?
Nope. So I failed. I got five GCSEs. I failed my A levels. I went to work in high street retail. End up working for B&Q. For those not in the UK, that's a large sort of DIY type store. So I worked there as a forklift driver, stocking shelves, that type of thing on night crew. And then ultimately end up in a warehousing and delivery person role for an organisation based in the south of the UK. And my job was to go and deliver IT equipment between the sites that we had. And what they did was they moved the build operation as part of a large scale upgrade from Windows NT4 to Windows XP, which is how long ago it was. They moved that sort of building the laptops and the desktops operation from the desktop team into the warehouse team. And I just got on with it, did it really well, and then kind of fell into IT from there. Helped the desktop support team out a little bit, end up getting headhunted and pulled across into the desktop team. Then got poached to another company that was on the same site. And there was a lot of sort of horse trading between the two organizations in staff, and I end up going one way and some other people go the other way, sort of thing, as it does. And then from desktop support, I kind of landed on application and report writing. So I started writing some sort of some Oracle Forms stuff, a bit of Oracle. Then I really got into SQL Server and data when I was supporting an application for estate management, and I had to support the database backends for virtual desktop, virtual application delivery, but also writing SQL Server 2000 reports for Report Server. And then I was very lucky at that point in my career to have a very, very good mentor who helped me with the technical side of things, but also the career side of things. And that's really where it started. And then I got involved with the community, going to the old UK SQL Server user group meetings out of TVP in Reading, the Microsoft offices that would be held every sort of couple of months or so. Tony Rogerson and people like that used to arrange. And then it kind of just went from there. Got involved with the community, involved with the bigger events like SQL Bits, started running the user group out of Southampton, got into presenting, but all that time also just sort of rolling through the career and applying for a few jobs here and there, but being sort of poached into a few as well, headhunted across, offered jobs through the network, that type of thing. That's where I find myself today.
That's a brilliant journey, isn't it? I mean, it's gone all over the place, and you're like, yay!
Yeah,
No,
I mean, there's
really
a lot of luck involved, but a lot of hard work. And it's one of those things. Building that personal network up is the one thing that I think, starting as early as I did, I was lucky to sort of kind of inadvertently end up in going to the user groups and starting to build a network early on in my career. And that's something I think that's very, very useful. Because that will hold you in good stead, give you more information and insight about what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. So when it came to like speaking in conferences, is that something you enjoy, or is that just something you do because it's part of the development that you wanted for yourself?
So it's a double-edged sword for me. I love sharing information. I love helping people learn. There's nothing better than seeing something click with someone in the audience when you're presenting. But at the same time, I get massively anxious ahead of any form of presentation, to a user group, to a conference, anything like that. Huge amount of anxiety becomes very unpleasant in the run-up. But once I get in the room, laptops on, game face on, delivering it, and get past that first sort of 5 minutes, do the intro, then yeah, no, it's enjoyable at that point. But the run up to these things, I don't find actually that enjoyable. It's sort of always questioning the sort of imposter syndrome type stuff as well that comes in, which also one of the reasons that drives the anxiety. So yeah, I mean, it's something I do enjoy when I'm doing it, but in the run up to things, it can be quite an arduous experience, unfortunately. But that's just the way I am, and I understand it. I know how it works, so it doesn't. Whilst I do get a bit anxious ahead of the events like that and things, I don't let it rule me, because I understand that's part and parcel of where I am and what I do and who I am. So I can cope with it. I got people around that are like, yeah, don't worry about it. You got this. I remember this, and they'll prompt, and it's like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. Boom, and we're done. So yeah, but no, I mean, it's like I said, the thing that really drives me is helping people learn, and that's the one thing I really, really love, and that's why I look to be involved with the community in the capacities that I can be, is because I know how powerful it was for me starting off in my career and moving through my career when I came in with no real tangible qualifications behind me. It was all sort of experience and work that sort of carried me through on those roles. Rather than, like I say, I never had any A levels, failed all of those, and the university degree that I have, I went and did through Open University alongside work. When I was in my early 20s, I started that. So yeah.
No, I mean, thank you for sharing that, because it's important for the listeners to know that not everybody is always confident, even if you have like years of experience of doing this.
Exactly.
It still depends on your personality, and then you kind of have to build well, the way
Yeah.
I think of it is I build some backups in my mind, like worst
Mm-hmm.
case things, that what do I do if that happens? And then it kind of calms me down in terms of like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. I'm going to, but it's like you said,
Yeah.
once you get started, you just like, I don't know, for me, it just energizes me immediately. So then I'm not worried at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And it's kind of akin to consulting, as you're walking into a situation where there's a lot of unknown, and
Mm,
you're going to get asked questions, and everybody is ignorant of something. And this is something that I picked up from Paul Randall: was ignorance is not something to be ashamed of. It's just a word that means a lack of knowledge, and people have sort of weaponized that word to mean sort of derogatory remarks. It's not. The reality
mm,
is, yeah, I'm ignorant about stuff because I don't know it yet. Um, Willful ignorance is something else, but that's by the
yeah.
by. But it's one of those things that we all don't know stuff. And there's no shame
Mm,
in that. And there's no shame in saying you don't know something, I'll follow up and come back. And whether I'm
mhm,
presenting, whether I'm consulting, whether I'm doing it in my day job, that's something that's important to me, is to be very open and honest about what I know, what I don't know.
mhm,
Helps me learn, helps me move forward, to make
mhm,
sure that the people that I'm working with have confidence.
mhm,
I mean, there's someone I did some work with when I spent some time working for Microsoft. One of my roles was to go out and do health checks and things like that on people's SQL Server estates. And someone that I did some work with there, I know a bit for years now, as considered a friend. They said, yeah, we're laughing, we're joking, and everything like that. I walk into the room where we're having a meeting with the rest of the organization on his part, where I was going to be presenting the information back. And he's like, I didn't recognize you because that wasn't the person you were just in the hallway outside. It's like, the game face comes on, and it's like, okay, now we're at business. We're doing that. Um,
mhm.
a room, you draw a line under it, you move on again. So similar sort of thing that I take to the presenting and bits and pieces we do when I'm consulting or presenting at events.
Yeah, because I suppose in a way, like everybody expects you to be very, well, not serious, I suppose. I'm looking for another word here. When you're, telling these things, I like
Yeah,
to add a bit of play, but I would do that only in, professional development talks, but not for the technical ones as much. Or
yeah. I
like you
mean,
say, in case of a consultancy, they want to see that, I'm just wondering whether that equivalence is always correct, that you have to be serious to be taken seriously.
I don't think so. I think
Mm,
you've got to. I think being open, honest, and authentic is what's needed to be taken seriously.
mhm,
Don't be someone you're not.
mhm,
Obviously, there's situations where you've got to have a certain level of sort of acting a certain way, but being able to bring your authentic self to any situation is the most important thing, I think, because that allows you to be confident in what you're doing, because you are confident in yourself and people accept you for who you are and the knowledge you're
mhm.
bringing and the experience you're bringing. So, help making sure that we build environments where people can bring their authentic selves is how we improve our industry.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So next we have like recurring questions. So the first one is career curveball. So was there a moment in your career where it kind of took an unexpected turn?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I've made redundant once or twice, that type of thing. Being out of a job unexpectedly, kind of, it's like, ooh, what do I do now?
Hmm.
And that again is where I fall back onto the personal network and what have you.
Yeah.
That can be very useful. So that's, I think, the biggest curveball there for something unexpected. Um, Sort of turning that one on its head for where I took a chance on something
Hmm.
that paid off was when I was at it was SQL Bits in London. Bumped into a senior member of staff from SQL Sentry, as they were at the time, and just sort of flippantly asked. I mean, I'd known the guys for a while, and was like, "Well, don't suppose you're looking at sort of starting up in the UK or anything? Well, give me a shout if you are." Which then sort of turned into 4 years or so of my career working for SQL Sentry as a vendor, doing monitoring tools, technical sales, and product management. And that was just on a sort of flippant remark in a hotel lobby to someone.
Hmm.
And that ended up, like I say, playing quite a big part in the career. And again, that comes from that personal interaction and network building.
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
that did through the course of the career, through the community and things like that. So
I think that's one thing, one good takeaway is that, you're not building your network or interacting people for just now in your career. It's something that you're doing for the entire career, isn't it?
exactly, and it's also just being able to have a sounding board. I mean, as independent consultants or working in small teams, being able to have someone whose experiences are different to mine, their outlooks are different to mine, having that diversity of thought is very, very important because it allows me to be a better technologist by understanding those other perspectives and being able to have a sort of personal network where I've got people that I can bounce those ideas off, ask for feedback or thoughts is also very, very powerful. So it's not just a case of, oh, I need a new job. Who do I ask in my network? It's I'm
Yeah.
having trouble with this, or I'm thinking of doing that. Have you experienced this? And you build those conversations, and you may have them on a conference sort of expo floor or in a hallway, but then I can message them on LinkedIn or email or things like that to get that sort of insight. And people can do the same for me. They can ask me questions, and I'll sort of provide my perspectives and go from there. But it's all about sharing ideas and collaborating is how we succeed.
True. So the next section is data hot take. So is there any surprising opinion about data or AI that you've heard recently?
Not that I've heard. I mean, my view on AI is it's still very much in the hype curve at the moment, and it will be interesting to see what happens when it starts leveling out. There's still all the sort of, oh, it's going to take your jobs and everything like that. It's not. People who can use AI effectively are the ones that are going to succeed at the moment. But quite how to integrate it into workflows, leverage it effectively, I still think it's still got a way to go. It's not going to replace people; it's going to augment people. Kendra Little wrote a really good blog post recently about how they're using it in their workflows, and it's accelerating things they do. That was really cool. And people like Chrissy Lemaire are doing some really good conference talks around AI usage as well. So I think until we start seeing some of that, AI is just a buzzword to me. It's until we can start seeing the practical uses of it. Satya Nadella made a good point. Until it starts to
Yeah.
improve productivity and drive sort of GDP growth in countries through the effective use of it, is it really beneficial? I mean, Microsoft have got a co-pilot everything policy, it seems, at the moment. The reality is I've got trust issues with them after the recall debacle and some of the other things they've done. They've got fantastic engineers, they've got brilliant people at the coalface, but some of the strategic business decisions I still question. And that's one of the things that makes me sort of an AI skeptic, I think.
Yeah, and even on the hype circle, I think it's like 2 to 5 years away, isn't it? Most of the Gen AI stuff to actually add value to
Yeah.
most stuff.
I mean, if you look at sort
Yeah.
of data mesh and data products and things like that, I think we've come off the other side of that now, and it's starting to really embed and be used effectively in organizations. And I think we've still got a little way to go on being able to effectively embed and use AI in organizations for people doing work on a day-to-day basis. There's a huge
Yeah.
amount of value to be had at the moment from back-end services for AI, things like image recognition and what have you. But accelerating people's productivity, I think we've still got a bit of work to do there.
And I've seen really good use cases for large scale enterprise scale stuff. Then you're
Yeah,
like, oh, yeah, that does actually add so much value. But yeah,
exactly.
individual level, it's going to take a wee while.
I think the back end services are where there's a huge amount of value for that at the moment because they're more tried and tested than, and we're starting to see the real sort of push now for the AI agents and everything that come along. So, I mean, you've got co-pilots in GitHub and Microsoft. You've got sort of developer queue over in AWS, Amazon, and they're slightly different in the way that they approach things. But no, I'm excited by it. But right now, I'm standing back a bit until I see how to do it effectively.
Okay. That's a good plan. So the next one is insider intel. So what's the one essential tip that every data and AI professional should know? I mean, you've given a lot of tips already.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, the most fundamental one is use the right data types. Don't just sort of use the kitchen sink data types of text and blob and things like that. When you're doing data designs, make sure you're using the right sort of types and scales and everything for what you're building. Is probably the one universal truth that sort of sits there for everything.
Cool. So how do you balance it all? What do you do to just, switch off and recharge? Because every time I speak to you, you're in some or the other airport running somewhere to speak at some other conference. And I'm like,
Yeah. Like I say, I set boundaries. I work 9 to 5. I set my schedule and I shut my work laptop down. I'll do other technical things, but I'll have it on my equipment, and I will do things if I'm going to do some personal dev or sessions building, things like that. So I've got a clear delineation. I've got a little. That's one of those things. If you haven't got if you're not privileged enough to have an office space dedicated and you work from home a lot, if you can try and find 2 different devices of some form. To try and break things up as well. Just get away from the work email and the inbound and stuff like that so you can concentrate on your things. But when I'm not doing tech stuff, I play my Xbox, I go outside. I'm very lucky living up here in Scotland in that I got amazing scenery just on my doorstep. So last year in the summer, when the weather wasn't too bad, be out for a swim in the sea every evening, that type of thing. So just try and get out and do bits and pieces that's not in front of a screen or behind a screen.
Yeah. When you said swim in the sea, I'm like, what temperature does it have to be for you to swim in the sea? I know you're born in Scotland, but oh my God.
Yeah,
but I grew up, ski suit to keep you warm.
Yeah, no, I grew up here. Might not sound it. Spent 25 years down on the south coast of England, but yeah, no, it's nice. I mean, 8-9 degrees, that's all right. Once you get in, you get used to it. It's not a problem.
Degrees, no, I'm in my big coat and outside, Yeah, 10, I think it's summer, but for outside, not for going into the water.
Yeah, no, get in the water, it'd be fine.
Oh, God. But also, I'm just realizing that I know that you do a lot of DIY stuff around your house as well. So is that inspired by your first job at B&Q as well then?
No, it's just little jobs, get them done, get them out of the way. It's fun building stuff. One of the things I want to try and get back into doing more sort of electronics, pneumatics, hydraulics, that type of thing. When I was growing up, one of the subjects I did really enjoy was up here. It was called technological studies, which was CNC programming. It was hydraulic, pneumatics, electronics, things like that. I've got my own backlog of things I want to do, and included in that is sort of building a weather station, setting up all the sort of data capture for that, instrumenting the greenhouse as well with temperature sensors, moisture sensors, and stuff like that, and feeding it to back end systems in the cloud. So still some tech stuff, but also getting the old soldering iron out and doing some bits and pieces there, doing some low level sort of programming in devices like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and bits and pieces.
No, I do still enjoy that as well. I don't get, I don't do much of it anymore, but yeah, something satisfying about a nice little soldering job you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to, I can write 150, 200 lines of code quite happily, but that it's just something on a screen to hold something in your hand and have that sort of, there's a tangible thing I've made. That's really satisfying. Because I mean, the irony is I'm not a huge fan of technology. Technology in my view is fundamentally useless. It's a shiny thing that just sits there and costs money. But until you bring it together with people and process, that's where the value is. So technology I can take or leave. It's the people and process stuff that really interests me and how to use technology.
And I suppose if you're thinking about it that way, then you're not like stuck to one technology. It's sort of the way I think about projects. It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
have the overall view, I have the scope, I have
Hmm.
the definites of what needs to be done, but
Hmm.
technology is later. I pick based on what is needed for the project. So
Exactly.
if that switches, it's not a big deal because
Yeah.
it's the engineering mindset, I suppose, in a way.
Right thing for the right choice at the right
Exactly.
time
Yeah.
in the right place.
You put it
So
much more eloquently than what I was trying to say.
no, it's all cool.
Cool. All right. Okay. So for the most important question, which
Yep.
is sweet or savory, what would you prefer?
Ooh,
Mm.
sweet.
Yes. Thank you.
Always
Join the club with me. There's only like one other
yes.
person who said sweet. So,
Definitely got a sweet tooth. Savoury's nice, but you can't beat a nice piece. So sort of
mm.
we've got a cafe not far from where we live that does some amazing sort of tray bakes and things like that are it's like an inch or what have you thick slab of chocolate and biscuit and marshmallow and stuff like that, and it's like
So like a rocky road.
rocky road with bits of
Rocky road.
crunchy in it, for example. That's good, or brownies that have whole Boost bars in them.
Oh my
So
goodness. Okay.
yeah, it's good. Not
At
good
least you
for me,
didn't
but it
say
tastes so good.
yeah, that's true. Because that's the same thing. Like, in Stonehaven they do the deep fried Mars bars.
Yes.
I've never tried it just because I'm just like, what if I actually like that? That's
Yeah.
really not good for me. So I'm not going to try it now. But I do
Exactly.
like the cinnamon rolls at the moment. The
Ooh,
nice big bakery ones. They're like, oh, nice.
yeah, they're good. I like a nice chocolate croissant or
Mhm.
stuff like that. It's always good. But yeah. Although one thing I do, chocolate with crisps, ready salt crisps and chocolate for some reason, good combination.
Oh, you're
In
trying to
Norway, there's
balance
a
it out.
yeah. I don't know why, just
Hmm.
works. But in Norway, there's a sort of chocolate coated snack, crispy snack called Smash, and it's so good. Shouldn't be, but
Hmm.
it is.
Shouldn't be. I'm writing it down so whenever I get there. Called Smash. Okay, right.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Guy called Mikey Robson put me onto them. He's got a lot to answer for, that boy.
He's gonna, it must be good if you're still looking towards it, isn't it?
Yep.
And you
It's
need
tasty.
something when you're running away from one side of the airport to the other, I suppose.
Oh,
Um, right. So, do you have any upcoming events or conference talks or anything exciting you want to share with our audience?
nothing at the moment. We've just obviously got the next sort of Aberdeen user group coming up in May,
Hmm.
which we'll be looking to deliver. No, I've got a bunch of stuff in for selection at the moment, but nothing selected at the moment. So
Hmm.
I won't be at Sequel Bits because my partner, she is one of the organisers, so it's kind of important that she goes along, and I'll stay here and look after the animals at home.
Oh,
So I'll be here looking after the cats and the dog and what have you. But yeah, other than that, I've got sessions in for a few events around the place, but we'll see what gets selected. I think we're in that lull between the
yeah.
sort of early conference season and the late conference season. So
Hmm.
yeah, things like waiting to hear back from the likes of sort of Data Scotland and Pass and things like that. So that should be good.
Yeah. Actually, I've submitted a couple to Data Scotland as well, so I'm just like waiting to see. But they still have like I think they have almost a month more before they close the call.
Yeah, I tend
Maybe.
to
Yeah,
I tend
it
to
is
when
gonna.
I tend to I tend to sit on the opposite end of the spectrum to most speakers. In the when the call for speakers comes out, I get it done there and then because that way I don't forget and then get to the last minute and go, what am I submitting?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm kind of made at the moment because I've submitted two, and there's another one which is running in the back of my head because I'm like, I probably need to refine it a bit more, but we'll see.
No, it's all good. Excited
But
to see.
thank you. Excited. Yeah, it's definitely exciting. But thank you so much. This has been a very fascinating conversation, and I'm sure that's a lot of takeaways that people can take from this.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to have a chat with you and sort of share some of my, I don't know, thoughts is probably the best way to put it, and views. But no, it's great. Thank you very much.
And that's a wrap. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to follow for more and share it with others. See you at the next one. Till then, keep connecting and keep learning.